Hello everybody, it's Foo here, and I'm bringing you another overlooked buff video. We're going to be looking at the magnificent snail Pokemon himself, Mr. Magcargo. Really like this Pokemon, a very funky design and an interesting fire rock typing. We'll go into all of that in a second. Before we start the video, just want to ask, please leave a like if you do enjoy this kind of content because it helps out the channel and it lets me know what you guys want to see, but no worries if you don't want to. So Magcargo, this snail was introduced in Generation 2 and he's pretty interesting. What we're going to be looking at today is some of the buffs that he's received in Generation 7 with Sun and Moon. But first, let's consider what he was like before these buffs so we can see the changes and what difference they made. So this thing is a snail made out of lava, hence the fire typing, and his shell has solidified into rock, hence the rock typing. Very interesting Pokemon. I really like the dopey slug with the drippiness and everything. I think it's awesome. That fire rock typing is pretty unique, but there are some issues with the Pokemon as a whole. If we look at its stats, it's got a really good defense stat, but none of its other stats really stand out. In fact, it's got a pretty low attack stat, pretty low HP stat, which is a bit of a shame because once you pair it with the defense stat, it really reduces the value of that high defense stat. And then middling special attack and special defense with really low speed, and that's where the biggest issue is. That 30 speed is so bad because the water rock typing, though it's really interesting and kind of unique, it has so many common weaknesses. So the 4 times weakness to water is awful, and the 4 times weakness to earthquake, to ground typing in general, but specifically earthquake, because earthquake is everywhere, is really, really bad. And then it's also weak to fighting type moves, which are one of the most prevalent physical attacking moves in the game. So for a physical wall, that's not ideal either. And it's also weak to rock, which obviously means that it's going to take lots of damage from coming in on stealth rock. So the typing really leaves a lot to be hoped for. Like, if it was a fast offensive Pokemon, maybe that wouldn't be so much of an issue. But being slow and defensive, having to take attacks when you've got these crippling weaknesses, that's pretty bad. And that's the main reason why you never really saw Magcargo used previously. In terms of abilities, it's got magma armor, which prevents it from being frozen, but that's not too useful because it's got some nice attacks like lava plume that can thaw it out, so you won't really see magma armor being used too much. It's also got flame body, which is a kind of a nice ability for a defensive Pokemon. It means you can switch him in on U-turns and maybe try to burn the opponent. It's good for a physical wall, basically. And then its hidden ability is weak armor, which drops its defense when hit by an attack to raise its speed. But being such a slow Pokemon, this was never really used. So that brings us on to whether this Pokemon is any better now, because before, with that slow speed, it couldn't really perform any roles particularly well. It does get into some really nice moves actually. Stealth Rock, Recover, Lava Plume, as I said. These are good moves for a defensive Pokemon, and it's got nice coverage as well. Earth Power goes really well with that Lava Plume to make very nice coverage. But because, as I say, because of the weaknesses, it just really didn't work out. It also gets Shell Smash, but with 30 speed, is that ever going to work? Anyway, the buffs. And the first one that I want to talk about, the main one and the most immediate one, is that Magcargo did get stat buffs. It got an extra 10 in its HP stat, which is actually very significant because it did have a very low HP stat of 50 before, now it's 60. In terms of proportions, that's quite a big proportional increase, so that's really nice for Magcargo. It does make it bulkier, means that it can take a few more hits, and with Recover it can stay around a bit longer. So that is, I'd say, very significant. Is it enough to mitigate those weaknesses? Not quite sure, but it can be a better defensive wall just with that HP buff. But then it also got, interestingly, a special attack buff. It's a kind of a weird combo to have HP and special attack getting an extra 10 points. Not sure why they chose those stats in particular, but going from 80 to 90 special attack does make it a lot more usable as a special attacker. And actually, I really like it because it does become more offensive. I'll talk a bit more about this in a second, But it does have a really good special move pool. It gets Stab Ancient Power, it gets Stab Fire Blast, it gets Earth Power, which is really nice coverage as it is. And then you can always add in a Hidden Power if you want to, so that's pretty good. 90 special attack isn't anything to like write home about. It's not huge. You're going to be doing decent damage off the bat, but you're not going to be OHKOing too many things. But it's still a very nice buff to consider. The next buff that I want to talk about is actually weak armor. Now, before I said that with such a low speed stat, is this very good? Well, now weak armor gives you +2 speed and instead of +1, which it used to. So you used to get that -1 defense and +1 speed. You now get -1 defense +2 speed when hit by any attack. So that it's a much more considerable speed increase. And what you can do is actually pair this up with Shell Smash. So if you give Magcargo a Focus Sash, the opponent will attack it with maybe a Water type or a Ground type move or whatever else they have to hit Magcargo with. You'll get the defense drop, but you'll get that big speed boost at +2. And then if you go for Shell Smash, you're going to be boosting your special attack and boosting your speed by another +2 at +4 speed. Magcargo actually outspeeds the majority of Pokemon. It outspeeds like almost everything unboosted, which is amazing. Some Choice Scarfers may well still outspeed it, but that's really, really good. And as I said, we've got that special attack boost. So now at +2 special attack, you're going to be doing quite a lot of damage. And this is such a cool set that I have a feeling no one will see coming, because why would you expect a Magcargo to suddenly be extremely fast and very powerful? So I really, really love this, and I think it's a set that everyone should try using because it could be surprisingly potent. Obviously, there are a few things that you need to watch out for. If the opponent has any priority left, you're left on 1 HP after this strategy, and so if they've got any priority, they're going to be able to take you out. And you need to make sure that any special walls have been damaged a little bit, because even at +2 special attack, you won't be doing tons of damage. But with this set, you can actually run Modest. You don't even need to run Timid, because after +4 speed boost, you're outspeeding most things anyway, so you can afford to go Modest, and your damage output will be high. Really fun set, super fast snail, going to be winning all the races and hopefully pulling through for you with that massive sweep, so definitely worth checking out. And the last buff that we're going to mention here is Z moves. So I looked into what interesting status Z moves Magcargo could get, and maybe some ones that could feature on a defensive set. There aren't too many though, because it already has reliable recovery and recover, so it doesn't need to look into any of the Z moves that might give it some recovery. Any defense boosts or anything like that probably aren't worth it, because all your opponent has to do is switch into a water type and they'll still be taking you out. So not really the best way of using him, but he does have an interesting move in Memento, so you could consider giving him the Darkinium Z with Memento to give him Z Memento, which is such a great move for basically bringing one of your other Pokemon back from the brink. If one of your other really important Pokemon, one of your win conditions, has been severely damaged, if Magcargo can manage to get a Z Memento off, what you do is you drop your opponent's attacking stats, and then whatever comes in next gets fully healed. So that can really be a momentum changer at the end of a battle. The issue is, can you get your Magcargo to survive till the end of the battle to pull this off? Not sure. What it does do is it gives Magcargo a Z Crystal, meaning that any knockoffs will be weaker against it. So this thing could maybe be a knockoff switch in, because it does have that flame body. So there are some reasons why maybe this could work, but I think that having Magcargo last till the end of the battle is a risky strategy. I think what's more pertinent to Magcargo is the use of offensive Z moves. So if you want to try a Shell Smash set with Magcargo and a Z move, you can do this. It probably will have to be a timid Magcargo, because you're not relying on that weaker armor boost with this set. If you can get it, then that's fantastic, but you don't have that Focus Sash assurance to make sure that you do get it. So basically what you have to do with this set, having a timid Firium Z Magcargo or Groundium Z Magcargo, is you need to make sure that you pick your setup opportunity perfectly on something that can't one-hit KO your Magcargo. Go for that Shell Smash. With timid max speed, you're outspeeding base 110 speed Pokemon, so that's quite a high speed tier to reach. That's really nice. A lot of Choice Scarfers will still outspeed you, so you need to make sure that you've dealt with them. but it's an option, and then your +2 Fire EMZ will be able to break through specially defensive walls that you would otherwise have to worry about on maybe the Focus Slash set that I've talked about before. But the offensive Z moves do give it an option. You could even run an offensive Z move on a more defensive set, because as I said before, you do weaken the opponent's knockoff, so on a defensive set that can still be really helpful, and then you can have a powerful fire type or ground type move to hit the opponent with there. But those are probably the Z-move options for Magcargo. So a buff, Z-moves probably aren't as game-changing for Magcargo as they can be for some other Pokemon, but they're definitely still a buff, definitely can help it out, and if you want to get a weird Shell Smash sweep going, then maybe you can try that. But I think that the Focus Slash or Weak Armor set is probably a better bet. I think it's really cool that you've got this amalgamation of the Weak Armor and the stat boost that can really help out Magcargo with that set, and it's something that this generation is definitely a lot better than it was before. So there you go, that's my rundown for Magcargo. I think that it's still very much a niche gimmick pick. If you're playing around in sort of low Smogon tiers, you could try this out, or just wherever else. It would potentially need a lot of support, but if you can get a Magcargo sweep, I think that's definitely worth it. Like, your opponent will not know what hit them. That's going to be all for today. If you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like, but all that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.